Gothic 1 Remake Unreal Engine 5, and right here, this is a dialogue scene. Nobody is fighting, no massive world chunks are loading. A character is literally just standing there talking. And we're getting 37 frames per second on a modern RTX 5060 laptop. Now look at the numbers. CPU usage is sitting around 18%. On paper, the processor is barely working, but look closer at the per core temps, 93 degrees. The engine is hammering a single core so hard with asset streaming that laptop is thermally throttling before the game even starts properly. That one detail told me everything about why this game struggles on mobile hardware, why fixing it isn't as simple as just dropping your settings or flipping on DLSS. I spent hours tweaking every settings combination imaginable to get the game running smoothly, and ironically, almost everything that you normally try actually makes the performance worse. And the fix, it turned out to have nothing to do with the graphics settings at all. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what works, what doesn't, and the counterintuitive trick you need so you don't waste your hours like I did. Quick context before we dive into the numbers. I have a history with Gothic. I played the original Gothic 1, then the Gothic 3, and yeah, even the train wreck that is called Gothic 4. The original is one of those legendary RPGs that you keep on dying and keep on playing, that absolutely refuse to hold your hand. You walk out the starting gate, got beaten to death by a mole rat, and learned very quickly that the world doesn't care about you. It was Souls-like before Souls was the thing. This remake is incredibly faithful to that DNA. The Eurojank is still there, the world feels unfiltered, and honestly, I respect the hell out of it. But UE5 on laptop doesn't care about your nostalgia. Let's see what it actually does. We're testing today on the ASUS TUF F16 5060 mobile laptop with Intel i7 14650HX and 32 gigs of DDR5 5600 RAM. This is a classic mid-range gaming laptop configuration, which is exactly what most people will be looking to play a game like this on. And all my benchmark loops run out in the open colony area and surrounding dense zones. Let's start at 1080p high settings with zero upscaling. In wide open static areas, you're looking at mid-60s. On paper, that feels fine, but watch what happens the second we start moving through the environment. Right here, the average drops to high 50s. The 1% low cater into the low 30s, and look at the GPU load. It crashes down to 39%. This proves the GPU isn't the bottleneck here. Something upstream is completely choking the frame delivery because Unreal Engine 5 uses aggressive background asset streaming. It throws irregular massive CPU spikes at the system. A thermally limited laptop processor simply cannot absorb those spikes cleanly. If you look at the frame time graph, it tells you the full story. It's not a smooth gradual dip in performance. It's unpredictable, jagged spikes. This is exactly what you feel on the mouse as micro stutters. So what's the natural next step I did? Bumped the resolution up to 1440p but enabled DLSS quality and let the RTX 5060 do what it is built to do. Except things get significantly worse. In normal areas, we're down to 52 FPS average. That's already lower than 1080p native. Then it starts training, 50 FPS average, but the 1% lows drop to 30. Frame times push way past 19 milliseconds. And the moment you walk into a dense camp area, 13 frames per second on the 1% lows. That's not a dip, that is a straight up freeze. The culprit is the exact same CPU streaming issue, but now it's amplified. Even though DLSS lowers the internal render resolution, running the game at 1440p forces the engine to stream higher quality geometry and assets. The scene complexity is higher and a laptop platform just can't keep pace. What about dropping the DLSS to balance? You get a marginal improvement in the numbers, sure, but look closely at the image, it goes noticeably soft, and those aggressive 1% low stutters are still there. What if we just drop settings to medium? This is where the game falls apart completely. Texture streaming on medium looks awful, the world loses all its grounding. It's like as if it doesn't have any shadows to ground it anymore. And worse, the 1% lows don't even improve. There is simply no winning move at 1440p using standard configuration. So here is what actually works. And it took a ton of trial and error to figure this out. Set your resolution to 1440p with DLSS balance. Drop view distance, foliage quality to medium. Leave rest of the settings on high. And finally, the most important step that has nothing to do with these graphics settings, lock your frame rate to 60 FPS using RTSS or NVIDIA app or NVIDIA control panel. That frame cap is doing something vital in the background. By dropping the GPU from constantly pushing for maximum frames, you dramatically reduce the total heat inside the laptop's shared cooling pipes. This gives the CPU the thermal headroom it desperately needs to handle the UE5 streaming spikes without throttling. The result? Outside, you're locked to mostly 60 FPS. I'm not saying there won't be any dips, but it's still really good. In the old cam ultra dense areas, it might dip to the mid 50s. But look at the frame time graphs. Mostly flat line. No spikes, no micro freezes, no stutters. It's completely gone. The CPU temp stays safely under 90 degrees and DLSS balanced at 1440p with high textures still looks okay. I know it's not as crisp as quality, but this is what you have to make do with at the moment. This is the sweet spot configuration for the RTX 5060 laptop owners right now. Unless there is some other patch that is released which improves the game's performance. If UE5 laptop performance has burnt you before on other games, this is exactly what this channel covers every week on new releases. Subscribe so you don't have to figure out this on your own. So to quickly recap, avoid native 1080p or 1440p. The CPU overhead makes both unplayable. Avoid global medium settings. It breaks the visual art style completely. The sweet spot 1440p DLSS balanced, high textures, view distance, foliage on medium. The rule that actually fixes it, cap to 60 FPS and let the thermals breathe. Full settings breakdown is in the description. Gothic 1 Remake is worth your time if you have any love for old school RPGs. It's gritty, faithful, and it doesn't talk down to you. The performance isn't there yet on laptop hardware out of the box, but with these settings, it gets close to what it should have been at launch. If you found a combination that handles the CPU overhead even better, drop it in the comments. And I'll see you in the next one.